In this lesson we are going to take a look at this MoGraph sound effector, and we skipped it because I think it was much better for us to create some sort of a mini project with it rather than to generically explain it on beginning with other effectors, and I really thought it would unnecessarily confuse you at the very beginning. So it shares a lot of setting with other effectors, so it has fall off, deformer, and parameters you can fiddle around, so that's completely the same, but this effector tab is really much different. So it also has this minimum and maximum value, and that is as far as it goes with sharing the settings with other effectors. Here you can see a bunch of settings related to sounds, and really to get something going you would have to load a sound file, so let's do just that. Let's press this little guy to open our file manager, and here is my file, and that's just a random music clip from a local artist, and it's a little bit of a funky music, but I hope you will find it to be suitable for what we are trying to achieve. Now you also notice these headphones, and I will just hide them now because I want to use them later in this lesson, and that is really a simple geometry with a few logical parts to it. So let's hide it, and now let's build something that is really common and will help you understand concepts inside this sound effector better. So if I hit play now, this guy here is just meant to play this audio file that we loaded. If you want to see something on this frequency graph, you'll have to press play inside Scene4D on the timeline. So I really hope you can hear that music. It's a little bit of low, and I will stop this and add, if I remember correctly, the clip was 730 frames long, and that's not really so important, but it's good to know. So let's hit play now, and you will see this frequency graph really working. And if you don't want to hear the music while you are playing the animation, because this can really drive you crazy if you will hear the same music for, let's say, 1000 times, you can uncheck this scrub sound, but you will know that sound is loaded because this frequency graph is working. So let's stop this, and the first part is done. We successfully loaded our sound file, and we have it working inside Scene4D. Now with this file, I want to really build a setup that is quite common, and that setup is a graphic equalizer. So first, to do that, we have to have some sort of little cubes going on that will represent the bars on the equalizer, and we can do that with creating a simple cube and really scaling it down to some reasonable size, let's say maybe 20%, and let's go even more, let's go with this, and we will squash it on the Y, so it's a little bit squashed, and let's elongate it on X to, let's say, maybe 40, so something like this, and this will be our little equalizer, guys. So let's drop it under cloner, and I will use a grid array just in X and Y, and let's find something interesting. So maybe this could work. Maybe even double this guy, so times 2, and put more in between. So I think really this could work, and it really sort of looks like an equalizer. Now let's see what happens if we drop our sound effector into effectors list, and let's see what happens. We know the sound is active due to this frequency graph. So if you press play, we can see these guys are really jumping according to that music, and they're jumping exactly this value. So that's really cool. You can maybe increase this value and gain a different result, but actually what I want to do here is quite different. I don't want these guys to jump up and down, figuratively speaking. I want them to color themselves with the standard equalizer color, so ranging from green across orange, yellow, and then at the very end red color. So first I have to enable the color mode. Let's see what we have now. And all clones are simply colored with the white color. Now, why is that? Let's go back. And here under sound effector, here is our answer. These are the frequency colors for these guys. So if you change this, so let's load maybe, let's start with a green color. Press play and you will see all these guys are now colored green. Let's go back. Now let's give it a shot and create a intermediate color. So we said green, orange, yellow, and red, just as in a standard equalizer. So it doesn't have to be perfect, just something solid enough. Let's try with this. And at the end, this would be 100% red like this. So if you press play now, we will still get this green color, and there is a bit of a problem because I have to explain you these settings before we manage to succeed in creating our setup. Now let's start with this first value, which is really simple to understand. So currently all these guys are lighting up immediately. If you create a certain offset, it will simply offset that until that value. So if you want to delay the music, you will simply offset it here. Now, this is the apply mode. This means that this frequency graph and consequently this first guy is applied to all clones and they will flicker according to this frequency graph. So if you change this to step, you will then apply values from this frequency graph across all clones in step manner. That means from the first one, also these colors will be distributed in the same manner. So from the first clone to the last clone, and it will make much more sense once I hit play. So how about this? This is really, really great. So if I enable the sound now, you will see that those guys are really jumping according to that sound. So just listen for a moment. And that is really, really great. Let me stop this, go back. Now, there are some settings here which are a little bit difficult to understand. So maybe this sample mode is a bit tricky. So it really tells this frequency graph. So let me hit play. Maybe it will be easier to understand. It really tells this sampling mode how to take values from this frequency graph. So if you change this to average, you will see it's taking really the average value. This switch is behaving somewhat differently. So instead of explaining this, I think it's much better to leave it for you to play with. This lower cutoff will simply try to cut off the frequency graph. Okay, hope that makes sense. This compression will, let's say, increase the amplitude, the frequency of these guys. So let's go back. Now with this filter shape, you can really set a different multiplier for these guys according to this spline. That's a little bit complicated, but I think you understand what I mean. This use filter will simply tell Cine4D to use the filter. Okay, so if I reset this, you'll see it's maybe a different effect. So you're really filtering this frequency and this bandwidth. Let me uncheck this and we will have the behavior we want. Now, maybe change this just a little bit so it's a little bit more bright. Maybe a little bit picky, but that's the way it is. I will just shift these guys a little bit to this side. Maybe even completely get rid of this and have just this. I think this could work, so let's stop, go back. Now let's just add a simple transparent material because I really want to mimic that sort of transparent effect of the equalizer and maybe to look much better. And I have to use a color shader. So let's go maybe with the luminance channel, so color shader, and I hope some things are much easier to understand now. And also this sound effector, you have the option if you change this to switch and under parameter enable visibility. Now these guys will appear only when they're sampled. I hope that makes sense. And that is our equalizer setup. I will just change this back to peak and we will continue with the second part of our setup. We stop this, go back. Now let me hide these headphones and I will introduce you to a second part of our project, and we will solve a tiny problem which is only really solvable with Espresso, because this sound effector unfortunately doesn't have the option to directly drive another object unless these parameters are used. So we want to sample the music itself and really drive that object. I really hope that makes sense, because let me just show you where the problem is. It will be much easier. So if I clone this, create just a single clone, and let me add that same sound effector and press play. You see what happens, it only lights up with the colors, which is okay, I guess, but if you enable any of the parameters here, it will really pulsate according to the music. So let me stop this, go back. Now that is also fine, and maybe you will want to scale these guys, so let's press play and it will also work as expected. But what if you don't want the color on these guys? What if you want just the scaling information or position information from within this frequency graph? I hope you understand the problem, because you cannot really isolate that sound effector just to these guys and hope it will somehow affect these headphones. And really loading two sound effectors is really problematic, so we have to find another solution for this. And what if you want to push this setup a little bit further? Let's say that you only want the inner parts where the actual speakers are to be pulsating according to music produced from within this file. That's a little bit problematic also. And also you don't want any color from the sound effector, and unfortunately there is no direct way to do it except with the usage of Espresso. So I will get rid of this clone, and if you remember correctly, if you want to access polygon level when you are working with MoGraph, then this polyfx is really your friend, and I will put it at the end of this hierarchy so it affects all these guys. And let's now find a way to access this sound information and pass it with Espresso to this headphone setup. So I'll create a null and we'll add an Espresso tag for it. We'll just scale this a little bit, fold these two guys so we get some real estate. Now let me just, for the sake of tutorial, once again just briefly doodle what I'm trying to achieve here if some of you are feeling lost. So here the idea is to transfer some information from this sound effector setup without the color. So I will extract the information via Espresso, then I will pass that information to another effector that can be a plain effector, which will receive some of the values, and then that plain effector will drive some of the polygon components inside via this polyfx guys. So I really hope this makes sense, and this will also be a little bit more elaborate setup, but will also give me an opportunity to show you some rarely used Espresso nodes. So I really hope that you are following. I will get rid of this dual guy. Now let's bring our setup to life. So first I will load a sound effector and we'll extract just the object information, because if you want to extract something from the effector, you want to set this to object. Now all nodes that are regarding MoGraph are found under this motion graphics category. So we are actually looking for this sample node, and with this sample node we will extract certain information from this sound effector. So we will load the object to the effector input here on the sample, and here I'll just extract the strength because I want to extract the strength of something. And then let's see what result we will get after we hit play. So this is the strength of these little guys inside the effector, and it's really tiny, but it really works. Actually, there is this data here. So if I will increase this, you will see that this guy really hits this maximum value. So something like this. Hope that makes sense. So it's reading out the values from this frequency graph, and we accessed all these values with this sample node. Okay, so let's go back to 0 because I want to show you how to surpass certain limitation if this is a very low value, as it is now. But before that, I will load a plain effector for this polyfx guy. So just bear with me for a moment and I will disable our parameters. I will enable scale, uniform scale, and leave that at 0. And the reason for it is I want this strength to control the scale of this guy. So if it is applied to this polyfx guy, that means the polygons will react according to the strength of this guy if we connect them with Espresso. So let's drop the plain effector inside. We can get rid of this result node and we will find our parameter value. We'll actually pull this node upwards so you can see what I'm extracting, and I'm extracting a scale value. I hope you're taking my word on it. So that's just for the sake of tutorial. Parameter transform, and unfortunately you cannot see that unless I scale this, and here it is. We have two scale values, and that's a little bit illogical, but that is concerning this this scale and this scale. Hope that makes sense. So one scale is for turning it on and off, and second one is the scale value. So let's actually extract both, and we will then guess which one is which. So let me just pull this guy a little bit, and we will connect the strength to both of these guys. So let's see what happens. And you can see these polygons are really reacting. So let's find out which one is the scale we are looking for. So if we unhook this one, then we know that this is the correct value, and we can get rid of this additional scale. Now let me go back and just scale this so we have more viewport area. Now what if this effect is really too subtle for your taste? Maybe you would want a really pronounced effect, so you will enable this compression to be higher like this, and unfortunately you will then also influence the sound file, which is not really a good idea. So maybe you will have problems with your sound. So you have to find a way to increase the strength of this guy in Express, and that is really simple. So let's just move these guys a bit. I will unhook it and simply multiply this value. So I'm extracting a calculate math node. You will have to take my word for it, and I will hook up this strength with the input 1, and I will simply multiply this value, let's say by 10, and then connect it to a scale. So now we have what we want, and with this input here, we'll basically influence the strength of this effect across this poly FX. I hope that makes sense. Let me stop this, go back. And you can see that these two guys are completely separate. I now have the flexibility to use anything I want on this poly FX, and I left this sound, this frequency graph, this complete setup intact. So two setups that are connected and function together, but there is no fear of breaking one with another. So that's always a good idea. So you can see this guys is really pulsating. Now, we told in the beginning that we want to confine the effect to this area here, also on this other side. So just this speaker area should be vibrating in that manner. We get rid of this little guy, and we will do just that with the plain effector fall off. So remember, there is a possibility to use object as a source for the fall off. And let's use one of these logical parts of this actual headphones. So let's see, maybe part 4 would be ideal candidate. So now in our plain effector, in our source link slot, we will simply drop that part 4, and if you press play, you will see that only the area sampled around this distance is actually working. So let's put that to 10 and maybe just 11, and you can see only the speakers inside are pulsating according to these guys. So maybe we can increase this just a little bit, maybe even more. So we have a little bit more of a pronounced vibrating effect, just like this. You can also here under Poly FX, under Object, you can enable this Preserve Fong, so it will preserve the shading appearance, and maybe I will put this to Partial Poly and Spline, so it will be a little bit more easier. So how about that? This is really one cool setup. Just for the end of this lesson, I will enable this scrub sound, so you will see that in action. So let's give it a shot and finish it with music.